our relationship with food, how our body kind of reacts to food intolerance as well as food allergies. Now, I know a number of people who happen to have food allergies, and some of these allergies can be pretty severe.
I used to have food allergies, but I kind of overcame the allergy.
Oh,
However, there is a difference between people often get confused between food allergies and food intolerance. What are the differences? Which is more life-threatening than the other? We'll find out more. The symptoms, causes, of course, the treatments with a special doctor with regards to this topic. Also, as Lisa mentioning earlier, can't really tell if you're allergic or intolerant to a certain type of food. Well, we'll be breaking the safe which holds the key to those grey areas. That's up a little later on the show.
Allergy and food intolerance, what is the difference? We'll talk with a good doctor after this.
Saw some visuals there of the type of reactions most food allergies can create. However, there's huge difference between food allergies and food intolerance.
That's right. Now, we do have a doctor here to kind of teach us, our body's relationship with food. Now, good morning, Dr. Ken Woo Chee, who is a consultant allergist and immunologist from Gleneagles, Kuala Lumpur. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
Now, first, big question. What's the difference really between, because a lot of people would assume it's the same thing.
Yes.
But what really is the difference between food intolerance and allergies?
Yes. Actually, it's easily to be confused between the two, between food allergy and food intolerance. But there are important differences. First of all, for food allergy, it can be life-threatening.
Right.
So if you have food allergy, it's very important to avoid the food. Because if you get exposed to that food that you're allergic to, it can lead to a fatal event.
Right.
If you have food intolerance, however, it's not quite fatal. And also, the dose is not that important. So you can eat food that you're intolerant to, but you will get symptoms such as bloating, headaches, discomfort, abdominal cramps. So that's a little bit different from food allergy.
I know that some people do, it's quite common with food allergies. Now, doctor, going back to your doctor-patient experience, what are the big ones?
Yes. Food allergy is actually quite rare. It's about 4% of the population. Well, a lot of people think they're food allergic, but they're not.
Right.
I think about 25% of the population claim that they're food allergic, but they're actually food intolerant. A good example would be if you are intolerant to durian because of the strong flavor or the strong smell. They don't like durian, so they claim that they're allergic to durian, but they're not actually allergic to durian. It's just that they don't like it.
Right.
So food allergy, for example.
It's self-diagnosed.
Yeah, self-diagnosed food allergy. Food allergy, for example, is a little bit different. Once you ingest that food, you get strong reactions. You can get symptoms such as shortness of breath, swelling of the face. You might get itchy rash all over the body. You might have difficulty in breathing. And in severe cases, which is called anaphylaxis, you might become unconscious. So food allergy, that's the difference between food allergy and food intolerance. There are 8 main foods that are responsible for 90%. They are milk, soy, peanut, egg, wheat, fish, and shellfish, and finally tree nuts. So these big 8 allergens is what we call them, are responsible for 90% of food allergies that we see.
So we heard most 7 of them we are kind of familiar with. Tree nuts, sorry, it's something new. Is that tree nuts commonly found in Malaysia?
Yes, tree nuts, especially cashew, is found in our cuisine. And cashew nut has actually been shown to be quite a potent allergen, comparable to peanuts that we see in Western societies, where you see a lot of news about peanut allergy leading to death. So cashew nut is also a very potent allergen.
Now, I know, doctor, that some people cannot even stand being in the presence of peanuts. I mean, they have to probably walk out the room. How can that happen in a biological manner?
All right. So if you are very allergic to a specific food allergen, when you are exposed to that food allergen, it can be through touch, it can be through smell, it can be through inhalation. So when you're very allergic to that food, if you breathe in that food allergen, you can get symptoms of shortness of breath or chest tightness, or you might even break out in hives. I have a patient who was very allergic to fish. And when this patient is a lady, she walked into a kitchen where fish was being fried. She immediately developed hives and could not breathe and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So this is a very, very severe allergy to fish, and it happens to people who have food allergy.
So what do you advise them then? I mean, if that's severe, you know, and fish can be, you know, in supermarket or in markets. So what is your best advice to them, doctor?
Okay. Particularly for patients who have severe food allergy and traveling, very important, number 1, to carry a medic alert bracelet with you or a medic alert card that lists what you are allergic to. So in case there is a reaction, caretakers and emergency responders can know what you are reacting to. So that's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is when you eat foods, when you're eating outside or you're eating in the aeroplane, make sure you understand what you're eating. For example, certain foods can have hidden allergens, and if you accidentally ingest the food, you're going to get a severe reaction. And finally, all patients with food allergy have to carry with them what we call an EpiPen, which is a portable injectable adrenaline. In case you have a severe reaction, you can use it to save your life. So these are my 3 advice for patients with food allergy.
But how do we overcome? Because I remember having a reaction towards prawns when I was younger, and I just keep getting all these rashes again and again. But I loved prawns so much that I kept eating them anyway. And it eventually just went away after a few years. I don't think this applies to everyone. It doesn't just go away. But how else can you treat them? Do you just, you know, overcome them by just facing your allergy in the face?
Would be because you overcame your allergy by kind of overdosing yourself on it. But can it happen, doctor? Like, can you overcome the allergy?
Look your allergy in the face. Listen, I'm not afraid of you.
What you're describing is actually being reported in latest medical research. It's called oral immunotherapy or sublingual immunotherapy towards food that you're allergic to. This is still very cutting edge and it's still very new out there. In general, as an allergist and most health professionals would advise, if you're allergic to that food, to absolutely avoid it.
Yes, at all costs.
At all costs. The reason why this is the case is studies have shown that previous reactions to foods, which might be mild, like for instance in you had a little bit of mild itchy rash. you were lucky because the next reaction might be mild or it might be serious, in which you might end up in the emergency room. It might lead to fatality.
Right.
So the recommendation is if you have severe food allergy or you suspect you have food allergy, do see an allergist immunologist for proper evaluation. And the recommendation is to avoid it because we never know if the next exposure that you have might be fatal.
What else it could lead to?
Yes. So the very important thing is avoid carry a portable epinephrine. And the latest research has shown that in patients that have food allergies, that there are treatments that are coming out there. But do not attempt this at home because you need to see a professional, you need to evaluate it properly, and you have to get the proper treatment. And oral immunotherapy or sublingual immunotherapy for food allergy is still very new, it's still experimental, but it will come. And there is hope for people with food allergies out there.
So there are possibilities of treating, especially extreme allergies.
Yes.
Now, doctor, I know that some parents, when it comes to children testing food allergy, they would have a food diary and they would go through a list with their kids to see how the reaction is over a period of time.
Yes.
Now, since some of the allergic reactions can be quite severe,
Yes.
would you advise that that is a good method to go by?
In this situation to the lactose, it's just that if you eat it, your body cannot digest it and you get cramps, abdominal bloating, and you don't feel well after that. So for patients or people who suspect they have food intolerance, identify what your trigger foods are. Number two, understand how the food is prepared. And also identify how much food you can take before triggering your symptoms. For example, I have lactose intolerance. I can eat a certain amount of dairy products such as ice cream and cheese. But if I exceed a certain amount, I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to have gas, I'm going to have nausea, I'm going to have abdominal cramps. Now, for patients with food allergies, there is no other option other than to avoid the food. I think, studies have shown that the risk of food allergy in terms of fatality. Patients, number one, don't care what they're eating. So they just take whatever is out there. Number two, they have asthma and they don't treat their asthma correctly and they have food allergy. And if they take the culprit food, they're going to have a severe asthmatic attack on top of the food allergy attack. So that can lead to fatality. And teenagers especially who have food allergy, they need to be advised and supervised by their parents because they, as a teenager, might feel invulnerable. You might be afraid of peer pressure or your friends making fun of you. But it's very important to understand that food allergy is nothing to be ashamed of. And because it is something very dangerous, and everyone should respect the person who has true diagnosis of food allergy.
I mean, not just allergy alone, intolerance as well, because, as I think it's an Asian thing. When you eat with a group of people and you can't finish your food and they're like, it's not nice to not finish your food, finish it. When you're like, oh no, I can't go any further because I'm going to feel bloatedness and heartburn and whatnot. What are your tips, doctor, to managing, such a situation?
Okay, so simple management tips. Number one, if you know that you've achieved that threshold where you're going to have symptoms, just say no. You just respect your body, and everyone should respect your decision to say, look, I've had enough. I don't want to take any more of this food because I'm intolerant to it. Number two is if you have lactose intolerance, there are help out there. They can be lactase enzymes that are found in tablets that you can take before you ingest any dairy products that contain lactose. And number three is not all the time you'll have a reaction if you have an intolerance to the food. So you can identify, for example, if you know you're going to get migraines if you eat chocolates and drink red wine at the same time, so you avoid one and not the other. So
I get
that's how you can get.
when I eat Maggie Mee.
Right.
Yes, it might be the MSG in the.
So, doctor, summing up what you're saying is that if you know that you have a certain reaction to a type of food, it is best to see an allergist to confirm